different but similar, from high-stakes environments to the beautiful chaos of civilian life. This is Catalyst Comms, anything and everything. Supervision not included.
Dan, you think of what I'm thinking?
We're finally taking over Hollywood.
No, Dan, Hollywood isn't being taken over. They're just slumming it for a few hours. What are we really doing, though?
Well, we're trying not to disappoint. Tonight we're joined by actor, musician, historian, and all-around great storyteller, Matt Doherty.
No. Okay, yes, we are. But we're doing a podcast with him.
Welcome back to Catalyst Comms, anything and everything where we dig into real people's stories. Today we are sitting down with Matt, who has spent over a quarter of a century navigating the highs, lows, and unpredictable shifts of the entertainment industry. You know him from iconic scene roles, including this time as a smartass Lester Averman in the Mighty Ducks trilogy, as well as performances on prestigious stages like the Steppenwolf and the Giffen Playhouse.
Yeah, but what makes our guest truly fascinating isn't just decades as logged on set next to titans like Al Pacino, George Clooney, and many more. It's who he became behind the scenes. He is an Academy Nicole semi-finalist screenwriter, dedicated playwright whose work digs into raw familial bonds, a lifetime member of the Actors Studio, and a mentor who actively shapes the LA writing community through the Inteus Playwright Lab. So pretty awesome background there. From growing up surrounded by steel mills and social frictions of Chicago's South Side to observing the modern world through his brilliant rideshare blog, Step Into My Backseat, Matt has developed a totally unique creative philosophy. He doesn't just look at the world to find stories, he looks at it to challenge it. Matt, welcome to the show, brother.
I mean, I should have that like introduction just as my voicemail greeting.
Yeah.
Like maybe we trim it a little bit because I think we live in times where people can't concentrate for more than 20 seconds.
You got 22 seconds. Go.
I want to make a slight correction.
Yes,
My
sir.
roots are in the South Side. I was born in the South Side, but I'm from the South suburbs. We got to be honest about that. I mean, yes, but it's South Side to the core. So yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm not.
Because otherwise, everybody's gonna hunt me down and go, "You're not South Side."
You're a White Sox fan. You got to be committed, man. Hey, let's get after it. You ready to dive in, man?
That's what I'm here for. I'm already swimming in the deep end.
Let's roll.
So we gave a small bio, but let's start with a 60-second fill in the gaps of who Matt is. Matt, stage is yours.
Oh wow, jeez, Louise. Fill in the gaps. That's the phrase that many creatives fear the most. It's interesting. We live in a world where people are constantly sizing each other up before they meet them.
Yep.
And I think that's true always. I think it's especially true as everyone believes this lie that we don't have time for anything. And then especially in the creative world. And it's interesting, like, I think the most fascinating time in a person's creative development is that gap that isn't filled in on their IMDb page. Like you look at people like Viggo Mortensen or some great actors or writers or directors, and you look at their career and you'll see these like periods of time where they're like, there's nothing.
Yep.
And if you've done this for a living and you are around people who have chosen a creative life, that's the time that the grit is. That's the time where people find out who they are. They learn there's more to life than just this like constant struggle. Like I'm fascinated by the times that are in between the dash. So I think since you said fill in the gap, like, yeah, man, I mean, my life has been filled in the gap. That's yeah. And that's the thing about a creative life. So much of it is in that between these highs and lows. What are you doing to serve your community, to try to build some stories and shine a light on other ways of making things and mostly just building community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, Matt, as you stated, and correct us, you grew up on the south suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, steel mills are all over generations in my family, but yeah.
And this was during a time of intense social friction, steel mills, like you said, white flight, the active civil rights movement. How did witnessing that raw, real-world tension shape your perspective on society before you ever stepped onto a Hollywood set?
That's it's such an interesting thing, and it's not talked about enough. So I'm glad you guys zeroed in on that. I could tell like this is a conversation you don't normally have when you do these things. Yeah, I mean, I was on the set of Mighty Ducks, and then I come back, and my school had was predominantly white, and then the demographics just shifted, and it was predominantly black, and in like a matter of a couple of months. And that's that great white flight time in the early to mid 90s where the suburbs and the cities were changing and redlining. I don't know how much people know about this stuff, but all the kind of like dark sins of American culture and all of those things that Chicago is rooted in, right? And it was a fascinating thing to be in a history class where you're learning about the civil rights movement, as if it's a thing in the past. And then you look out the door and you experience friends who are white, and you're like, that's pretty racist, that stuff you just said. And do I say something? Do I not? And to feel the reality juxtaposed against this like thing as if it was this thing in the past. And to really feel the collision of that, of those, and really under all of those things I mean, we're coming up on 250 years in our country, these things that are just built into our society that we still grapple with today, and unfortunately. And like it was those conversations, those tensions between white and black, between colors, between like is so rooted in most of what I write. And like I didn't realize that what I was doing was just kind of fitting into a long tradition of Chicago writers. But it was like when I explore that time, it was so deeply pivotal to me as an artist when I look back, because like when I dig into this stuff, I see that under all of these things that pit people against each other, we were all playing on the same little league team. We
Yeah.
were all, and like we were all working, trying to get the same jobs, and like that class that like for me that the sadness is that like my friends and the people I know, and these aren't like big ideas, these are people I know, these are faces, these are identities. And like that like it was all about class and access
Yeah.
and how much everybody had in common. And so all of those things are so deep and it's interesting because it's kind of embedded into Mighty Ducks mythos too,
Yeah.
like I mean it's D5 was a community that was underserved,
Yeah.
and before diverse was cool, ducks was like, and it was this term that we use, like it was, you really look at that, and that movie was way ahead of its time because it was talking about we all play for the same team. And I know it's like a family movie and it's a sports movie, but man, it really talks about like these communities that I grew up around. So
That's
Yeah,
good.
no, I mean, you're kind of hitting on the theme of the podcast, actually, and I think we talked about that before. But breaking apart from those labels and actually telling people stories to show the humanity behind that. That's and you're describing it very well. Is that hey, we all play for the same team. That
yeah.
if I'm going to quote you, I'm going to take that one away and put it in my my repertoire I use later.
Yeah, and like it was really weird to watch like these scared people just vanish and move and set up their lives because somebody new and moved into the neighborhood. And now we talk about it in this context of historical context, but like it was fascinating to watch like scared white people just like leave, I'm like, what is this? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That guy's fine. He's moving in across the street. It's like it's like, oh my God, scared white people. Oh, stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I never had to live any of that. When I say unfortunately, whether I say it that way or not, but I never had to live that. Frankly, I lived in a diverse world growing up in Arizona, where we
Yeah.
had a huge Indian and huge Hispanic population mixed with white, and
Yeah.
there was never really a thought about it. Let me take that back. My grandfather was racist as hell, but I love the man, but it was also
Yeah.
generational
Yeah.
difference, significant generational
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
So,
people when you see that people like I find that we find I don't this is the hope for me is that like when we are truly a diverse group of opinions, of perspectives,
yeah.
of colors, of orientations, of tastes, like there's strength in that. And I know that sounds like silly, but I mean I wish there was just more of those like melting pot areas that we talk about. We're like, hey, America's a melting pot, but like, man, if we can really make it that way for real,
Yeah.
I think we would be so much stronger for it.
Well, we build more camaraderie, definitely.
Yeah.
But
But it's hard because it takes people getting out of their comfort zone. And I
yep,
get it. Everybody likes their own type. Like you see it. It's human nature, you know? I mean, but like I've always been fascinated by that. And it's also because I've just had these experiences where I've been out of my comfort zones
Yeah.
and I've been in other places and I've met people that don't have experiences like mine continually. And I know what it feels like and the privilege of feeling like you are the outsider, which when you're, a straight white American dude doesn't happen so much. So it's like I know what that feels like a little bit
Yeah,
and
fair.
a tiny, tiny touch.
yeah,
And I feel like that's what makes us so strong. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm thinking about a lot of this stuff because we're on the eve of this huge anniversary of
yep.
our society, you know?
So I got one quick question. So with your style of humor and everything back then, how did that go?
Oh man, I mean, I think humor is a great way to talk about all this stuff. If you make people laugh, then maybe we can have that conversation. That's what what's his Norman Lear, right? That's what
Yep.
all in the Family was all about. Like I remember I got to meet Norman Lear and he was one of my heroes because like I got to work at one of his events, and he was just a sweet dude. He's like one of the most powerfully. He's super rich, and he was like Norman. This is Norman Lear, but that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was making us
Yeah.
uncomfortable. He
Yep.
was showing this stuff. We were in Archie Bunker's
Yep.
thing, and then the Jeffersons, and like, but he
Yep.
was doing it through humor.
Yeah.
So I think that comedy is such a great way for us to take our guards down, relax a little bit, and then lean into areas where we're a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I would throw one more. I think Sanford and Sons covered that as well too.
Oh yeah, man. That whole
Yeah.
universe of
Oh, good to
shows
see you,
that were
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean they were brilliant, you
Yeah.
know? You
They
know?
were phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
used to watch that stuff with my grandfather all the time. It was great. Hey, I would shift because we're gonna touch on a lot of those
Yeah.
areas in some of the other questions. But growing up with your four older brothers can be a survival on its own. You mentioned your mother.
Speaking of humor.
Yeah, yeah, it's survival of the fittest. Hey, you mentioned your mother was the stable anchor in the chaotic welcoming house. How did that blend of chaotic brotherhood and maternal stability influence your voice as a storyteller, especially looking at your recent work Brothers played?
Wow, you guys asked great questions. Yeah, my mom is gone now since 2019, so
Yeah.
luckily that's awful, and I miss her every day. But then we've sometimes laughed. At least she didn't have to see some of the shit that's going on in our country.
Actually,
So maybe she got spared. She was my mom was a school teacher for decades and decades. She started as a public school teacher on Chicago's West Side in the early '60s. She volunteered for Kennedy's an election, and it was so funny because I found out somebody I recently knew. My gal has a lot of older mentors, and one of her older mentors was actually at the Ambassador Hotel when my mom was there in '68, and when the Chicago six and there was the
Yep.
Grant
yeah.
Park demonstrations. But my mom was an activist to the core in a way that she believed in education, so she devoted her life to that um in underserved communities, and a lot of who I am today is rooted in that, and we got Irish all over the place, so much Irish. I think if you look at it historically, we're like this, like when you're Irish, there's this terror that you're going to be seen as like they used to say shanty Irish. Like you want to be lace curtain Irish, you want to be like we look good, we're good, Yeah, so I'm the youngest of five boys. My dad, I have two older brothers from my dad's first marriage. I don't believe in terms like half brothers. I hate those terms, and I
Yeah.
like to actually talk about that. That like they're my brothers. And I know we're living in this world where there's 50% divorce, and everybody still does that. I'm like, no, man, they're your brother or you're not. And like we but there's a huge age difference between all of us. Like my oldest brother John, who actually worked at the steel mills for years and years and years. And he would move as they would retire. They would retire the smokestacks and the mills, and he would just move to the next one. Retire as a euphemism, and
Yeah.
um and then but yeah, yeah, it's pretty wild when you got five Irish well, let's say troublemakers. We were all in our own way, we'll keep it that way. My mom was she had her hands full. My God, she had her hands full. And my dad, I was a latchkey kid, like, and I don't say that in any kind of guilt or
Yep.
any
Yeah.
of that, because that's just was the times. My
Yep.
mom and dad were both working. My dad had a long commute from the north side. And I it's so funny, like we had this house that had this open door theory, like it was just all the knuckleheads in the neighborhood were welcome there in a way. And when you're the youngest, speaking of humor, it's kind of a survival mechanism. If like that's my value. But and even though I make this storytelling and laughing and making people laugh as a living, I've never really felt like the funniest person in my family, which is really, really hysterical. Like I know my uncles, my older brother Marty is hysterical. Like I think like, I just happened to like be the guy who stuck to it. It's like I can't do anything else, so I got to do this. But it was our house was the place for like the lost boys in the neighborhood. During the summer, the screen door was always open, and we would just gather them. And yeah, so it's like rooted. And so my mom, she kind of tried to corral all that, or just let it be. She gave it a space, and but we were a handful, that's for sure. But that brotherhood, that idea of brothers is always rooted in most of what I do. I think it's kind of what we're talking about when I was mentioned earlier with white and black and
Right.
being in the neighborhood. And like, I think that, a lot of men, we don't talk. And so I write a lot about men, and so I think it's rooted in being in a house where like even the dogs were dudes. So I had a lot to learn when it came to dating.
Well, that was my entire family. My mom would always tell me that my brothers and sisters, and she would point the dogs. I'm like, wait, really? Ooh, well, let's get the pecking order straight. At least I
Yeah.
eat
Oh
first.
God. Oh man. Yeah. It was. And when you're the youngest, it's like wait, Marty, Dad, Matt. You're just
Yeah,
you're kind.
you don't
It's
even have a
the.
name.
But in a weird way, it was also the easiest because no matter what I did, I would never probably be as bad as one of the others. So like which was like, cause sometimes I was like I remember like you get like your name led by like Miss Smetty or something at sixth grade, and you did, do roll call at the start of the school and be like, and they'd see my last name and they'd be like, they would twitch, they'd be like, "There's another one," So it's
Can't
like,
be that bad. Hey, so you were working successfully as a child actor when you were told point blank that you needed to go to college, which I found interesting. Taking that advice led you to Northwestern.
yeah.
Looking back, how did stepping away from child actor grind to get your degree protect your longevity in this business?
Oh wow, man, that's another really chiseled, pointed question. It was a critical moment in my life. Yeah, I think when we look back. It's funny, like I've been working with I've been learning about like executive function stuff lately and
Yep.
trying to beef up skills. Like I'm so good at like creative stuff. I'm really good at this stuff, but I'm learning how all these like little business skills. And there's this term called finite and infinite gaming, right? Where like the game the game of a game of like, like a soccer match. Like I love
Yep.
football. It's 90 minutes plus stoppage time, right? And that has in big and middle end. And then there's the infinite game of life. And I just love that metaphor. But like in the 90 minutes of a game or a play or a movie or a project, there's like three or four critical moments, right? That are like the game turns. And I think life is like that too. And like I was on the set of Ducks 3 and it was in one of those critical moments where I could have stayed and kept doing what I was doing, and I had so many opportunities, and I was really hurting inside. I was not in a good place, and so I think if I had actually, done the thing, on paper, everybody is like, this is you get to arrive at being whatever, or famous, or any of that stuff. It probably would have really done some damage, if not killed me. And at that same time, I was starting to like I've always been deferential to people who were elders. Like I have that, you talk about native, like I have that, like my elders, it's an Irish thing, man, like
Yeah.
Yep.
that it's in my pagan back of my brain, like the people that have been there before know some things.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, like and I would learn from them. I would like these guys would see me reading stuff and they were like in that movie. And I was like, and I'd be like, there'd be this older character actor. I'd be like, you were in that? And then I'd read a book about it. And then this guy, Jeff Nordling, who was our Coach Orion, we had gone to art school and studied theater. And he's like, man, you should get out of all this and go study. And, I think you're probably a real artist, and I was on the cusp. And I think that and one other person were the nudges that got me to go to Northwestern, where I, really realized that I love, while I was there, talk about microcosm, macrocosm. There was this tiny little pavilion they called Shanley Pavilion that used to be like the ROTC building. And then of course, like any renegade black box theater organization run by scrappy kids, they take over old buildings that nobody wants,
Yeah.
right? And so this thing had been painted over 1,000,000 times because it had all this stuff. And that's where like a lot of the like rabble rousing punk rocky theater artsy dudes and dudettes would all go and just practice and learn how to make stuff that was pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
And that's where I found my people. That's like where I ended up. Like I always talk about what I do today is just an extension of Shanley Pavilion, It's maybe not the glitzy, we're in the theater department thing where everybody has the fancy voices and they got all the proper stuff, but we're doing the cool stuff.
Yeah.
We're where the cool kids are, and the roof might cave in at any minute,
Yeah.
and the building might not be up to code, but like that is where I discovered the prime like element of who I am as how I best serve the artistic community I get to be involved in. So I always love to talk about it as a place, and it was Shanley Pavilion.
Yeah, it makes you kind of edgy, I think, not having the boundaries or at least the guardrails left and right, and you can just be.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And like in that room, in that building, some like world-class artists were just getting their start and like playing and figuring out what they were about and going, they weren't asking for permission. They were just doing
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And and that's where I was like, oh, these are my people. This is what I do. Oh, I'm more than just a child actor guy. Because at that point I had that stigma. I had that something to prove thing that you luckily outgrow,
Yeah, so interesting is, you're talking about being in the room or being around your mentors or the elders and the respect piece. And I think that's kind of how I've approached things. And, I think Phil's the same way, but natural adaptation for me when I was in the military.
Natural adaptation?
Yeah, I progressed in the military because, I was doing my thing, but I was always looking at the next level, next step, even though it might be, years from then and getting with the chiefs then and everything. And, reluctantly, it was kind of mentorship, kind of, hey, I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love if you're going to do this, but I'm going to teach you. And again, I think that's kind of lost in our society a little bit now. Technology's in the way, and everyone nowadays has that information in front of them, and they're ready to go forward and still not rely on the experience or the knowledge of the people before us. So.
Oh yeah, man, it's that's how we were for thousands of years. So it's like, I don't know, maybe there'll be a pendulum swing back to that, if we get out of our out behind our stuff and go, it's back to what I was saying in the beginning and realizing like we're all neighbors, it's like, I don't want to get all Mr. Rogers about it, but like it's kind of true,
Yeah. Well, again, that's kind of the goal of this podcast for us too, is to just get people talking and communicating and not putting in labels or anything like that. So.
You may have just changed the title of this podcast episode. Actually, I love that, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it when I was a kid, right? I mean,
I think we all did. Captain Kangaroo and all that.
Yeah.
So, Matt, return to the industry after Northwestern wasn't an immediate red carpet rollout.
Not so much.
No, they rolled me up in it, man.
Gotcha. So it was a deeply humbling experience where the roles didn't come automatically. Can you take us back to that specific period of rejections? How did failing to get hired right away build the grit and tenacity that defines you today?
What you just said. I mean, like you don't know it at the time, but like, yeah, it's the whole there's this, you reframe it, right? But you can't life must be lived forwards, but it's understood backwards, right?
Yep.
But like what if this thing that you think is the worst thing could actually be one of the best things that ever happened to you, right? And I think my life has been a series of those. Like I have such a unique perspective on life that not a lot of people have, which is like I was driven around by a limousine when I was a kid. And then I literally drove the fucking limo after that. In that order, you know what I mean? And then they eventually didn't even trust me with the limo. They was like, okay, you can handle the car and a cab. You know, you can't even get the limo, bro. And so it's it is it I had an agent when I was at that age where I had this old soul kind of thing, but I had this baby face. And that's not exactly the right energy for you know, a star. You kind of got to grow into that. I realized I was like this character actor, but I was young, right?
Right.
And I remember I had this agent who was like, Matt, go get a life. You're probably not going to work till you're in your 40s or 50s. And I remember I was so angry. I was like, no, how dare you? I was going to prove you wrong. But he's right. And also, like, I had no life skills. Like, even though I had great parents, um, and I know a lot of kids who do Hollywood stuff as kids, and I'm not a Hollywood kid. I'm from, like I said, I'm from the Chicagoland area, and I'm not born into this stuff. Like, I had a lot to learn, man, because my sense of reality was warped. How can it not be? Your frontal lobe is still forming, and I was living in a fantasy land of like what I did this movie and they started a hockey team, and like it's no matter how grounded you are, your perception of reality is warped, right? Um, but I had a strong work ethic, and but I also had bad habits, and which was mixed up. And I mean, I remember when I was after we did Ducks, my dad made me work at Aurelio's Pizzeria because that's what my brothers did. And I washed dishes. I washed dishes right after I did Ducks, and you know, so I think those stuff help, but still, it doesn't really prepare you for the pain and you can't explain it because you take it so personally. Like when I grew up in this stuff, I took everything so personally. I remember when I would get a call and I didn't get a movie, and I'd be like so close to getting another one of these like life-changing movies, and there's so many of them. And I would just cry. I would just bawl on the bathroom floor. I could still feel it, And I would like, why don't they like me? Why don't they like me? And because I had no sense that it had anything to do with me. I just you're a kid, you just take it
Right.
personally. So I think all of that is really painful, and it can really destroy a lot of any anybody. It's not just actors, like any prodigy type, and I don't mean that like, yeah, I was a prodigy,
Yeah.
and it can really do damage. And I'm writing a piece about soccer players in an academy, and so I get to explore this energy there, and like musicians or anybody who's really quote unquote gifted in a thing, and then you realize life's really challenging. That's a really big pitfall. It can be really
Yeah.
like really tough.
So
Um,
it's a wake up call. I
oh
mean,
yeah, and
and again, ironically, because you're talking about different areas, military. Phil and I's last couple of years, especially for me over here as a government civilian in Fort Knox, was dealing with IT stuff, and there was a lot of prodigies in the IT community who were in the Army. So they kind of forgot that they were in the Army too, and rank structure and everything else. So literally one guy I'll never forget. I'm a retired Navy officer, senior civilian, sitting there with the colonel, and the kid, he was a captain, and he's just going on, and the colonel's looking at him, and I'm going, "Are you done disrespecting the colonel at this point in time?" And he was
yeah,
like, "Well, you don't understand. No, you're in the military first, buddy. You're a soldier
yeah.
first. Great that you're a prodigy, and don't get me wrong, Matt. He was amazing at what he could do, but I just have to go. You've got to stop and get back in reality, because if not,
Yeah.
your career is going to be over." So
Yeah, and like for me, and what's interesting about all that, yeah, it's the same thing. Like I had great training, I had great models. I had like I on the set of Ducks, like Emilio was so good at teaching us how to behave, and like, and that's where I learned a lot about who I am, and as a leader, as a person, how to you treat everybody equally, and like
Yep.
all those things were right, And I remember I learned from Jack White, our hockey coach, who learned from Gordie Howe, like how to do when you're in the public. Like I had great training, but when it all goes away and you all of a sudden like no one wants you, it is it is so painful.
Right.
Like, and I talk, and it's kind of one of the, but in a weird way, it's the best, like you said in your question, like in that is where I learned resolve, where I learned perseverance,
Yep.
where I learned um what was really important, and that I am not what I do.
Right.
I'm not how you perceive me. And like I don't have to like did you like I teach, right? I work with writers in a small group, and I have uh a website that people can find me. I work one-on-one with writers, and I especially work with people who have like kind of hidden or like tucked away their creative stuff because they didn't think it would ever do anything as adults. And so there's a lot of that can be really painful for a lot of people. But like if you write, you're a writer.
Right.
If you've painted today, you're a painter. And we live in this society where we commodify stuff all the time.
Fair.
So I think part of my journey back was like just doing the stuff for this only purpose of doing it. And then I learned, oh yeah, some of the people I love and respect the most in my field would say that's the number one thing you want to do is you do it because if you, well, they used to say if you're not happy doing it in a church basement, then don't do it, right? Because, and then I started to refine in a weird way, kind of like the Ducks, I was like kind of becoming Gordon Bombay in a way where I was like, do I love this? I do love this. Oh, actually, what I really love is sitting in the back and helping people be on stage and writing for
Right.
them. And because when you've been quote unquote famous, it doesn't solve any of those problems,
Yeah.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Fair.
like, what do you do then? What do you want to do then? Well, I don't know. I think I kind of want to like sit back here and write for other people.
Good. So,
Real quick, as you're describing that, and it's just a voiceover, I was actually thinking about social media and what you described in the industry for your side, I think is very much reflected in the way people deal with social media. People are starting to find themselves about the sphere of influence that they have. How many thumbs up do you get? How many likes? All that.
And it's the reality of how people measure in the metrics,
Yeah,
whether they want to invest in your film or give you a part or not. I'm like, really?
yeah.
Oh my, I'm sorry. Did John Cazale, was he really big?
Yeah.
I don't know if John Cazale had a lot of followers, but he was really good at what he did.
Fair.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we talked about how you noted that modern society seems dangerously checked out and
Oh,
fails
man.
to recognize absurdity. Why do you think we've lost our radar for the absurd? And how do you use your work to force people to wake up and look at it?
Wow, that's I mean, yeah, the nature of absurdity is something I could talk about forever because like I'm rooted in it. Where that's what I studied. It's the idea of so absurdity is deliberately muddy. It's deliberately weird. It's deliberately absurd. It's like a little off. It's allegory. It's not quite reality because it's meant to put us onto like they used to say like a fool's when you see the tarot card of the fool walking on a tightrope, right? It's
Yeah.
meant to put the audience on that tightrope. It's meant to bring us out of our comfort zone. And like absurdity often comments on a society that is out of balance. Absurdity often is a way for people to kind of like look at when the world is a little off kilter, and it and through the lens of the fool. And now the fool traditionally is somebody who would be in the employ of the king, who had immunity from getting their head on a plate, who could tell truth to power, who could, by the nature, they're one of the only people in society that can poke the bear and know that's their job, but they're safe, and the social contract is you don't kill them. And so that's a sacred, like ancient contract when you make comedy. And like your job is to kind of make power uncomfortable.
Yep.
And so when you mix the foolish energy with absurdity, it's a really powerful tool in our time, but also like I don't know, like we've kind of gone to sleep, like we don't quite we're checked out, like I said, and you pointed out, which is I get it. You guys talked about social media, the constant algorithm that is literally directing us to whatever it wants to direct us to for more engagement, like rats in a cage. That is a proven fact. It's not a conspiracy. That like we've lost the thing we talked about in the beginning, this ability to step outside and like see how absurd it all is.
Yeah.
And that's the point of absurdism. It was
Yep.
born out of like post World War II in a way where the world was on fire. They just literally burned Europe down for the second
Yep.
time. There's full of millions of dead. We broke the atom and God's dead in the sky. But here we're gonna make this art stuff about that. And like I feel that it's so critical in times of great social unrest. And it usually comes back in times like ours because it's meant to make us laugh and think about what we are perceiving every day and how we are living.
Yeah, fair. Hey, let's expand that a little bit. You had the blog Step Into My Backseat Chronicles Your
Oh
Time.
God, that's years ago, but yeah,
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 I think it's fitting to this conversation. Really,
yeah.
I guess what I'm really trying to get at is what's it like to be trapped in a car with modern detached people? And did the
Yeah.
passengers actually reinforce what we're talking about, or do they occasionally
I
surprise you?
so for context, everybody who's listening here, if you're still listening, got
It better be.
you're probably in your car right now. Maybe you're stuck in traffic. We're gonna talk to you right now. I'm gonna use my FM, my late night FM DJ voice. The Yeah, like I drove a Lyft and Uber. I drove a cab. If it was a thing, I drove it. Like I said, I wasn't trusted with a limo. And the but I would get all these people in my car, and I would just sometimes just tell stories with protecting their who they are as their identity of just my particular day, just driving people around LA. Because again, I grew up like reading people like Studs Terkel, and I loved Studs Terkel. I loved Ernie Pyle, these great American journalists who sought this level that we're talking about,
Right.
this like this intersectionality of America,
Right.
and like real people. And that's what, like Carl Sandburg, all these guys, these are people I was influenced by. So I was like, I'm in a car. I got to make something out of this job that's not even paying for the gas, no wear and tear in my car. It's like keeping me busy, and I get to know my city. But yeah, you would get like so many people. It was really an interesting experience. Like I could see how now we have Waymos, because in a way, I was occasionally we would have real conversations because you're stuck in a car together. But like you kind of are in a way like the predecessor to a robot. You could feel it, you know?
Yeah, fair.
You could feel it coming. And this is 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned your big influences. One of the ones we talked about prior to this was Mel Brooks, and I love Mel Brooks.
Yeah, happy 100th birthday, man, to the happy 100th
Yeah,
birthday
yeah,
to
that's
Mel.
true. Yeah. So in today's hypersensitive, highly polarized culture, do you feel it's harder to pull off that brand of fearless, high stakes satire? How do you keep that tradition alive without watering it down?
Well, you just keep doing it. I think the only way to do that is to make the budget small so you don't have to compromise. Because when you start having to, feed egos and pay a bunch of salaries, Clint Eastwood was really good at that too. Like he
Yeah.
would keep his budget small, and he would deliver on time, and then go figure he could make movies that were incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grand
He's an American master of storytelling. So yeah, and in a weird way, it's the same thing that they would do. Like I know that you don't water it down. I think it's possible. Comedy in a weird way doesn't. They say it doesn't travel internationally, which I guess I kind of get because sometimes we watch movies from other countries and maybe we won't laugh at what say might
Yep.
be really funny in Korea, or what might be really funny in Germany might not be really funny here. So I get the economics, but I think it's possible. to continue to do that. Like, look at the success of people like Adam McKay and Judd Apatow. But my fear is that we've forgotten how to laugh. And that's the thing to these last couple of questions about absurdity, about a checked out world. What's under that is a shared sense of meaning and truth. And that's what's in Failed State. I know we've been burying the lead. The movie I made that I'm sure we're going to talk about, there's a scene in the middle that is, to me, if I ever write anything or direct anything as good, that'd be great. Where they explain why the movie is the way it is, and these film historians are saying it's because Failed State was made at a time when any sense of shared truth and meaning was evaporating from our society. And so maybe the filmmakers presented the film in this way to show us ourselves.
Yeah.
And you cannot laugh when you cannot have a shared sense of meaning and truth. You cannot have empathy. Then you no longer have a forum for the most sacred form of art, which is tragedy. These are thousands of years old traditions in storytelling where societies are supposed to come together. A forum, a theater, a film, cinema, all these things that are going away, these collective experiences. And it makes me sad, but the blood's not gonna be on my hand. I'm a warrior. I'm gonna keep making things, but I have to say, how do we do this in a time when we don't have a shared sense of meaning and truth? Well, you have to then embed it into it. You have to call it out.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of replaced the humor and the brotherhood with judgment in certain cases, and it's unfortunate. And I would say the military, good reflection of that. We've gone away with getting away with some things, and I know some of it probably was a little bit pushing the envelope, but in reality, sometimes what we did with the humor that we had, Dan and I won't go into any of the jokes because they will offend, but that offensive joke creates a bond that honestly creates brotherhood and commonality. And you said the word empathy. It may be satire, and if it's understood that way, it creates exactly that. It creates a bond and a brotherhood between people. Whereas now we're in the more of a realm of judgment. You said this bad.
Well, it's a tragedy. We're making light of the situation to it face that adversity.
Oh, 100%.
And again, that's where, all joke aside, pretty much my whole military career, my civilian career, I was that guy where, again, somebody in the room, I'd say something, and they'd look over, and the boss would be like, "Thank God somebody's, break the tension." Once again, it's Dan, but hey, at least somebody's doing it. And I'd be like, "Guys, we've got to have a balance here."
Yeah. If you laugh together, you eat together, and you suffer together.
Yeah.
And society is. I mean, unfortunately, you can't do anything until people bottom out. It's like a junkie. You can't help a junkie until the junkie admits that, like, I'm a junkie, right? And my life is unmanageable. But like, I think that it's in a weird way, it's like that. But it's if everything is a microcosm of the game, the little thing. Last night, the United States went down a man.
Yep.
And in football. Okay.
Cheap red card.
Cheap red card that should in the bin there, and I'm a huge footy guy, right? And then the announcers were great. I think it was my favorite pair of announcers, and they were like, they have to suffer together.
Yeah.
And I know it's not this Irish Catholic thing. I'm not talking about like, oh, Maya Copa. They suffered there when there is shared actual pain, shortcoming. And I was like, oh, that's a great metaphor for what we need as a society in a way. Like, if we got to go down a man, and then we got to rally and not let one into the net. And I think maybe we'll come out the other side. It's the whole Ken Burns theory. What's going on in the game, in baseball or whatever, is it what's going on in our country? Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's the hope, man. We just kind of need we need to suffer a little bit together.
Good point.
And then maybe if we keep laughing and stay in the deal and make a good, kick over the wall, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, Matt, you've stayed in a career of film and TV for over a quarter of a century now. That's a long time, brother. What is the biggest?
You guys call him old?
Well, we're older, but
Yeah.
What is the biggest myth people believe about the acting life, and how has your definition of success evolved since the Mighty Ducks days?
Well, we're talking about it this whole time, like that's what I love about having an actual conversation,
Yeah.
is I am not my credits. And that's the thing, if I could instill to anyone else. I wrote a blog a while. I've been writing different blogs to stay sharp over the years. And I wrote a blog, and it was one of the ones that like actually went the farthest. It was like had a bunch of people read it and stuff. And it was like, just don't say uh what are you working on, or whatever, what have I seen you in lately, ever, to an actor. And basically it was like this essay about the real deal pain and the reality. Like, none of us chose, like, we all chose this creative life. Everybody, there's no victimhood here, there's no self-pity. We all know the pitfalls of it. But like, a great way to talk about anything to an artist, whether they're a writer, director, or painter, anybody who does this life, which is full of ups and downs. Like, I deal with more rejection than anyone ever will in a week, right? And and that's great. There's no there, you have to like find your own stability, and you got to be your own cheerleader. But when you navigate all that, you get this unshakable sense of a faith and a foundation built in like real things.
Yeah.
That I have friends who did the corporate route, and then when they lost their job because they thought they had banked on it, that it was this certain thing, my God, they fell down, right? They really, I mean, like, they couldn't get up for a month. But like, I'm like, that happens on a Tuesday to us, It's like, so you get this, like, you guys talked about this like gallows humor, in the sense of like, but what actually happens over time is you develop a sense of faith, and a purpose. And I am not, like, no one will ever pay me enough, ever, for my writing. I remember my mentors would tell me that. Like, if you look at all the years I've made in order to get good at this thing, like, the joy has to come from the act of doing it,
Right.
right? And then maybe you get lucky and you get paid, right? Cool. You find some other ways to make a living if you have to, sure. But to me, that is those are the real gifts. Like, is knowing the payment is in the exploration, is in the doing, is in the relationships you make over the years. Um, the fact
And
that you
that
get,
result. Yeah.
yeah, it's not the result, it's the playing in the sandbox.
Yeah.
And like, I wish I could have distilled that and bottled that up and given it to myself as a younger artist, but now I get to, pass it on to other people because I know it's from my own experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so we alluded to it in your bio. You kind of work with some big names: Al Pacino, George Clooney, Alan Arkin, and others. When you're on set or in a rehearsal room with creators of that caliber, what is the most valuable unspoken lesson you absorb just by watching them work?
We're all the same, man. I had a friend named Andy Prine. I remember I was going to a big thing, and I was a table read for something, and I was nervous. And Andy died many years ago, but Andy was this old cowboy actor. He was in Look Back, Homer and Angel.
Hmm.
He's in some classic. Look him up. He was in a bunch of. He used to drink with John Wayne, and him and another great. They're both passed on now. They would take me. They take me like, Matt, we're gonna teach you how to survive Hollywood. He was like a Southern gentleman. And he says, and then I was like, you're gonna meet me at Whitset and Laurel King in the Valley at this intersection, and I'm gonna teach you how to survive Hollywood. And we would go there, and it's the par three 9-hole golf course. And he's like, you can't get hurt here. And they were the world's worst golfers, right? And they're like, and I was like, and they had to pay for my God, I had no money, and they got me the hot dog and a cup of coffee. We played this round of golf, and they were like, and they were saying, Matt, when I was, and they had the cataract sunglasses on. They're like, Matt, when I was coming up, you had to be bad not to work. And then Richard would tell the story. Richard Hurt was, and he would tell this story, and they were like, nowadays it's like really competitive. But like, the reality is, get a life, man,
Yeah.
What they taught me, and I remember they earned my trust. And he says, like, as Andy, I got to do this thing. And I was on the golf course with him. And he's like, man, I'm gonna tell you a secret. He's like, man, like, he's like, well, you might be nervous at that table, but when you look up, everyone around that, I don't care who they are, they might be Marlon Brando. Everybody's thinking about themselves. Everybody's nervous and everybody's a little scared and they're all trying to fluffle their feathers and look like they're the big man. And I'm like, that's so right. And I'm like, and I learned that and I was like, everybody is the same, right? Just it's the same thing you learn again and again and again. Um, don't take anything personal. And it's all a circus and treat everybody equally because that's what really good people did. And that person over there would is probably just as scared as you are. I remember Bruno Kirby, the great Bruno Kirby, told me that same story. And I was like, if two different people are talking about the same thing that everybody's a little scared,
Yeah.
then maybe what is there to be frightened about,
Well, what's interesting about that is, again, in your line of work, and then on the flip side, our line of work in the past, being a leader, you're scared, but
Exactly.
you can't portray that, and
Nope.
you got to be confident and push that through.
There's a
So
great Ulysses S. Grant quote. He's one of my
yeah,
heroes, and if I had my druthers, I want to do a piece about him, about his early life and his sense of failures that he had. I want to tell that story. It's the great American story. And but he had that great quote when he was a young man in Mexico fighting in Monterrey and when that awful imperialistic adventure. And he says he ran into a soldier, and then he said that guy, he realized that this soldier was just as scared as he was, and it was a lesson he'll never forget.
yeah,
And like, that's a privilege.
Yeah.
Like, what is the Billie Jean King quote? Like the pressure is the privilege is the
yeah,
pressure, right? Yeah, that's I think what is a privilege to be trusted. It is a privilege to be in that room and to feel that pressure.
yeah. So ironically, and I always mess up the title, but the movie with Matthew McConaughey and oh man, who's basically the submarine movie?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. My friend Marguerite's husband Chris was in that movie, and I always want to talk to him about it.
Yeah.
They
Well,
all got. I heard it was a ridiculous experience. Yeah.
but the cool thing is we actually use that as a training.
Yep.
Because reality is, when the CO, the XO is like, hey, why are you not, giving me good marks to get my command? Well, you're too close to to the sailors basically, and there's a story behind that. There's some truth behind that, but the other story is his journey through that whole movie, where now he's thrown into his position. He's got to send a guy down to die. He knows he's going to die for the better of the good. So I mean, I think there's a lot of parallel with that too. And again,
Well, that's the
I
definition of leadership. Is
yeah, exactly.
no good call is an easy call.
Yeah, no,
Like
exactly.
they don't come to those places where you have to make a decision unless
Yeah,
they're not easy answers.
yeah. So many actors want to write, but few successfully transition to accomplished playwrights. Was there a specific moment of frustration or inspiration where you realized I need to stop waiting for scripts and start writing them?
It's funny. Yeah, sure, but another way to frame it is like just because I was known as something and I was good at something, like maybe doesn't mean it's the thing I really am here to do. Like I realized, wow, I was writing stories when I was literally 6 or 7 years old. I was sitting on typewriters. I was sitting on Chicago white pages, the really thick ones, to get high enough in this seat to sit at this old typewriter that only had like a red ribbon. Like it was such an old typewriter that it's in order to tell a story of what like I'm these toys I'd been playing with as a kid, right? And I was like 6 or 7 years old. And I was telling stories since then. So I yeah, and then I got and did this stuff. I got so lucky, to do the things I did as a young man and as a boy, really. But like I think before and during and after all that was like literally I just wanted to sit and write and direct and bring people together and tell some stories. I think that's always been the way. I just think I had to have those other experiences, have them go away and realize, no, this is what I'm really here to do.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that's the Irish in you, honestly. The storytelling. That's
Oh, it's embedded, man. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I share that a little with you because the Navy side, as a sailor, you always got sea stories. So
Yeah, it's actually the same thing. We tell stories while we're in a on a boat or
yeah,
around a fireplace or whatever, that's it's in our DNA, man.
yeah. Hey, so and I'll tiptoe around this one lightly without breaking your NDA. What can you tell us about the creative pressure of being under contract to write three screenplays simultaneously for an Academy Award nominated director?
Oh God. Uh, right, fix. I felt more like a mechanic. I felt more like a mechanic underneath, like, leave me alone. I gotta cut 50 pages of this thing. I'm giving her all she's got, Captain.
Scotty.
Yeah, most of the time when you're working, it's the best. I started being a playwright because my mentors when I was young were these playwrights that they were like, if you can write a play, you can do anything, which is true. Like if you can really truly hold an audience's attention for 90 minutes to 2 hours, just what's on stage, and not break that fragile thing, then you can write anything. And like I was like, okay, because I always wanted to like be able to be an adapted screenplay guy, like where you take source materials, books, things.
Yep.
It speaks to my strengths. And so most of the time you end up working where you inherit a problem. It's like being a contractor.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my early youth, like when I was like coming out of child actor privilege life, I worked for carpenters and sucking up sawdust and working a sawzall and painting houses. I did all that stuff, which I learned a lot from, right?
Yep.
But you when you work for a real good carpenter, you basically are cleaning up other people's work that is shoddy, right? And so when you get brought into things, it's like that. Oh, you think the problem is just this one? And you open the wall up, you're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
So a lot of that work was just problem solving and
Fair.
navigating egos. Um, I have some fond memories with working with this particular person, but of course you're kind of uncredited because that's the whole thing because they got to protect their chain of title. And it's like work for hire consultant stuff. And I was young, so I didn't really have contract stuff. I was I didn't have the esteem to go, wait a second. Um, well, oh, maybe I should take more than just the money I got here. Oh, like whatever. But I got to work and I got to really practice problem solving. So that's really what it is.
Yep.
And also navigating really busy egos, which is like a lesson in Hollywood. You're trying to grab people who are so busy and sit them down to intensely focus, which is really hard. And this job is like ridiculous, but that's why I think I love it. And I guess the great Billy Wilder, one of the world's best filmmakers, writers from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, in his journals, he had the same problem. And that's when you start to realize you're like, oh, this is a universal thing, like being able to like, wait, you gotta get everybody to sit down for 2 hours, but the phone's ringing and this is this, that, that, that. And you're like, and you gotta like intensely figure out how to do this thing and it's really oh man, there's so many skills involved in it. And that's the thing I always love to tell young writers, young directors, young whatever, is give yourself the patience and time to get good at this thing.
Yeah.
Whatever if you're listening and whatever, maybe you paint or maybe you write books or whatever, I don't know. Like if you were a doctor, they wouldn't trust you to open somebody up in a year. But a lot of people think like if I'm not able to like do the thing in a year, I'm a failure, and then they stop.
Right.
That's
And
funny.
like if you were a physicist, if you were any of these things that require years of training, and that's the thing if you're an artist, like it takes time to develop. And yeah, we live in a world where everything is youth oriented, which doesn't make but like the people that really have something to say and know how to say it are the ones who've been, living a little bit and learning how to do their craft.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a parallel. My daughter made a comment to me one day, and I was trying to push her to be an engineer, but she's kind of settled on, and I don't want to say settled. She's chose dentistry as her kind of profession, very specific reasons. But originally, we were talking about being an engineer because she's wicked smart. But her biggest fear and why she shied away from it was that she believed that she would be unsuccessful once she got out of school. And I'm like, you do realize you don't come out of college all of a sudden being that magic engineer and doing it all yourself. those credentials are earned over time. And oh, by the way, they're done with a team typically. So,
Yeah.
but that perception of I need to apply it immediately and be successful on the day I walk out of college, it didn't dawn on me that she had that feeling. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, crazy.
Yeah, nothing could be a bigger barrier to success than the like feeling that you have to be a success
Yeah.
immediately.
Exactly.
Immediately, right? And
Yeah.
that like, wow. And then I had some teachers that would say like, that would be like, man, writing isn't rocket science, or writing isn't astrophysics. And then they dot dot dot, it's harder. Like and like it's true. It's like
Yeah.
it's the level of skills and all this stuff that go into this. Leave it to me to leave one of them to try to do one of the most challenging things in the world.
So your latest play has seen development from the NTS Lab to the Actor Studio West. When you are watching or reading your own work, how hard is it to turn off the actor brain and just listen as the playwright?
I try to listen as an audience member,
Okay.
because the audience will always tell you like what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
In a weird way, I also maybe listen as a musician because I've played music my whole life. Like I think that there's a certain song of the universe vibe, groove, like constant beat that a thing has, and when it like loses its groove, you can tell. And some of my friends are music engineers, and they use this metaphor like the groove is I think it's this I forget who originally said it. My friend Ross Hogarth would know, but the groove is a delicate thing, and like I try to look at a project when I'm in development with it, and where's the funk, where's the groove, and when it falls out of that groove, the pocket, as they say, um, look at that moment, because that's probably where the whole thing can grow. So I don't even listen as an actor. I listen like with that.
Gotcha.
Hey, to quote the B-52s, grooves in the heart.
Grooves in their heart, man. It's actually true. Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, hey, so we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I want to go a little bit deeper into it. You moderate and facilitate spaces for other writers in LA,
Yeah.
which I find, and I think you do it as a side gig if I read correctly.
Yeah.
What's the most common roadblock you see in that modern writers are hitting?
I think it's what we're talking about, this feeling that we have to have it all right. I know it in myself, and if it's not right away, then you've done something wrong. Uh, um, Also, I think, well, okay, yeah. I think the enlightened left is a little needs to chill out. I think like also like there are arguments to be had, and
Hmm.
then there were issue plays or issue things. And like I think if we set aside the issues, or we get to our individualism rather than our identities,
Yeah,
and we get to arguments like plays, movies, things like that, I think they're about, everything we're talking about. Like, how do you humanize? I think it's a lot of that stuff. We all have something to say, uh, but they call it a play first, for example, like, so it's supposed to begin with play.
yeah,
I love what Billy Wilder says was, what is it? I start with a big idea, but I usually end up with pure entertainment. So it's like, and those things, being able to hear feedback, and then also a lot of people don't know how to give feedback. They like
Yeah.
let a piece emerge, um, don't force your own will on it.
Yeah.
And and also this is all in the context of this great shrinking, this vanishing, revenue streams changing, opportunities changing, whether they're institutions in the theater world or networks on TV or the consolidation of entities here. So the opportunity is getting choked. And like, instead of looking at all of that as a problem, like look at it as a gift, like let's just make stuff. We're probably never going to be able to do it. What do they say? Like, you're probably never going to survive it, so you might as well do your best, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think all of those things, like, let's relax and do
yeah.
the best we can. I think it's all of those things.
Fair.
So you were talking about music. So you also write and release original folk music on SoundCloud. Is music an extension of your storytelling, or is it completely a separate escape from the demands of the film theater industry?
It's an escape, man. It's like it's the same thing. You do this thing since you were like a kid. You want to like find the thing that's your own. I think I got into music originally to write songs and stuff because it was a great way to write longer things. If I can write a song, then maybe I can write something longer, right? And you get that immediate gratification at
Yeah.
Yeah.
first, and then you realize, no, the good songs take time, right? But I just got into making music because they were my buddies, and we would play gigs and probably try to get girls, and all of it's like, but not really, because like it's not the '60s, and then it's but it was really just a creative expression. And I was rooted in Bob Dylan and all that stuff. Um,
Well,
so
that's
yeah,
funny. You got that kind of look about you too.
oh yeah, well, yeah, it's the Midwest. Yeah. No, I just started playing music because it brought me a lot of joy. And then,
Gotcha.
we made records. I recorded a record when I lived overseas. I did one here called
Oh,
Dignity. It's on
we
Spotify. It's on Spotify called
Oh,
Dignity.
Spotify.
send me the link to it. I'm listening.
Yeah. And then I was in a band called The Middle Class, not the punk band. We didn't even realize we shared a name with a famous punk band. But we were like a jug band and we play farmers market circuit. And
That's awesome.
and we had a bunch of feel good, like bluegrassy it sounds old in the best possible way.
Gotcha.
That's cool. Hey, so and I know you got a poster behind you and with it on it, but Dan and I had a chance to view your film Failed State. It was awesome. And I will say, as Navy guys, we catch ourselves quoting it, and that speaks huge volumes to our appreciation because that's what we do. We watch movies over and over and over and over again until we could quote them with some level of sarcasm built into our daily routine. So I want to give you a chance to talk about it and what's the genesis behind the movie and what are your desired outcomes for both the viewers and industry from that.
I mean, the whole thing began in a meta sense. So Failed State tracks these two writers who will stop at nothing to bring their show Failed State that they really believe in, and then will make it happen, and they get caught in this like top secret cabal of Hollywood and the CIA. It's like a Tuesday in Hollywood. But it's ridiculous. It's designed to be ridiculous. It's designed to be an absurdist allegory
Yep.
because they believe that failed state can really happen, and we don't quite know, spoiler alert, that their show may have something to do with our times. So they're not just, so it's like in a weird way, they think this could and happen. So we kind of get under this idea that we're not exceptions as America from the rest of the world.
Yep.
American except. And so like but the whole thing began when I was in a real pitch with another writer friend and we were doing a show. It was like this CIA spy thing. And like we were bringing it to these producers who usually bought CIA spy things, and we were doing our thing, and the guy interrupted the pitch where you basically have 10 minutes to describe the whole
Yeah.
show. And it's like, buy our vacuum cleaner, and then they would interrupt and they're like, this is like when we share ideas with the intelligence organization and the CIA. And I'm like, what did you just say? Did you just say that? And I put my little note cards down and I look at them and they're nodding their heads. And I'm looking at the producer friend that brought us to the meeting and he's nodding his head. And I'm like, did something just happen here? And then I was like, my inner Mel Brooks spirit animal, like the light bulb went off, and I was like, that is an insanely absurd, ridiculous idea that Hollywood and the Pentagon or whatever would work together.
Yeah.
I need to make fun of that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the whole thing was born. And where it was cemented in me was simply outrage and pain of what was going on in our wider world. My friends who were underemployed because we had the pandemic, we had work stoppages from strikes that we thought would save us and bring more. And then they just changed the game. There's more consolidations, that like agony of like watching people like move out of town because they couldn't afford to live in LA anymore. and going, and then I was bringing another project for 2 years. So you invest like years into these things speculatively, and then it just fizzled out at the 1 yard line. We like ran into like the best defense in the world, and then somebody wanted to go to Greece, and then the idea just dies. And then I was like, I gotta make something. And I knew that we had this technology in our pockets,
Yep.
our iPhones, and I was like, I'm gonna make an iPhone movie with my friends. I'm not gonna wait for some perfect equipment, some perfect day. And so my intentions was to show a way through this crazy time, which is like to get together with your friends, to work with the way you can to make it fun. And then like don't need celebrities, you don't need permission, you don't even need a film festival. And then like we literally did everything so small ball, so punk rock by design, so we could tell the story of like, and anybody else can do this. And then when you do all that work, what happens with a lot of filmmakers, and they give it away for pennies, and you're like, you might never see a dollar back on your thing. So we were like, well, let's just host it ourselves and ask our community to pay $3 or whatever they want to pay. Because just like, it's a pay what you want model. And then all the money goes back to us to try to make back our money and then maybe make some more stuff. It sounds like so simple. It's like elegantly simple. And it was the same thing that like rock and roll does, that comic books do, because this reckoning, this economic reckoning of our time hit them first. Musicians got hit first by like no one paying for anything anymore by us. And it's heartbreaking the way we took the Kool-Aid from Silicon Valley and just blew up these existing models that is turning art into content. And I was like, I need to get in the lion ring and not be commenting on the lion ring and make something that everything, how we made it, why we made it, the way we made it, and how we're releasing it is to show up an alternative to how to survive this economic blight and in a way and make it fun and artist forward.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it the way we did it. And that's why we were releasing the movie the way we are. And I'm sure you guys will share the link, but you can find the movie at our website. It's ohkeydoh.com. That's ohkeydoh.com. I'm going to pause. You should write it down or wait, get your pen. ohkeydoh.com. I promise I'll stop at that because I know you'll watch it.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to bring up something that you mentioned when we were talking about it too, was that, and I do believe this is going to be a little bit of a cult classic.
I do too. Yeah.
It has the makings. But you said something that I thought was very key to pick up on, was that the more you watch it, the more you find in it. And I'm phrasing a bit, but I know that's a truth because I had to go back and watch a couple scenes because I'm like, oh, she's chained. I won't spoil the movie, but it was.
Yeah, we literally like set out to lampoon a spy thriller.
Yeah.
So therefore, we literally made a spy thriller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but we did it with absurdity, which is deliberately obfuscated. I can't even say the word. It's deliberately made because I think that's what it's like to live in a failed state, right? Where you don't know what's right. You guys know more about this stuff, misinformation campaigns, all those things. So somebody called it a conspiratorial comedy, which I think is a really great way to look at it. But yeah, like I love Harold Ramis movies. I love Mel Brooks stuff. I love anything that you want to watch again. Like why instead of like being it biodegradable, like I don't want to invest all this energy and time in something that I don't feel like would make people want to go, oh, let me watch that again. Because when you do, you'll see that everything in the first scene is actually the whole movie. You just don't know it at first.
Yep.
No, you realize that in the end. I think what I really liked was, again, just without giving anything away so people could watch it, we have this one known actor that everyone's always pointing the finger at, but you took it a different direction, and that's what I quote a lot. Hey, it's the Yemenis,
Yeah, I had these guys come up with a word for something because I was like, oh yeah, they make this. One of the lead actors the characters is let's just say he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's fully committed, you know. He's delusional,
Definitely
in his
committed.
belief. And he's like yeah, the plot and the thing is the Yemenis the Yemenis plot, and it's like no, he can't even say the right word, you know.
But hey, it's got a little bit of that humor in there. It grounds you. So you spent some time working with veterans who are trauma survivors, using the narrative arts to process deep trauma is heavy, sacred work. What did that experience teach you about the actual functional utility of acting and storytelling outside of the entertainment industry?
Well, like yeah, part of what I do with my writing seminars is I realized that it was helpful for um there's a lot of organizations that do this way more than me, and some really good ones. Like art, as I'm not a clinician, I'm not a therapist by any means, but I like working with those communities because art is a great way, an expression, and the way that I was learning and teaching this stuff, like I think is really helpful for people who have trauma. And like so we would bring it into I brought the workshops that I do into many different facilities, many different places. I like residential treatment facilities with addiction and alcohol abuse or any of that stuff. And I've seen like a group of people sit around a table and do a prompt. If I was a superhero, I would be my favorite Muppet, and then they just start writing, and then what we do is we'll share, and like I can't tell you what actually happens is incredible, right? And you'll hear people who have never thought they were quote unquote writers, and it reminds me that we all have a story.
Right.
And as any you guys know, like storytelling, sharing one story is the foundation for any kind of healing. Whether people have a sexual abuse or emotional abuse or whatever it is, or they're veterans. When you're with a group of people that are fellow sufferers, and then you share your story, something magical happens, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, and I think that's that same energy that we're talking about throughout this whole conversation. Going back to the block, to the
Yeah.
neighborhood, where I was talking about like watching this community get turned upside down. And if we could have just crossed the street,
Yeah.
right? That's foundational to I think healing.
Yeah.
And it's not the only um modality for healing, but it sure is a good one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found that people opened up because they
Yeah.
didn't like I'd be bringing in my work, and because I didn't have letters after my name, and I would laugh and go, "Hey, I don't get letters after my name. This is what I do." People would be more open and honest
Yeah.
because they weren't being studied by
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate that work effort across the board. Again, not just for the veteran, but like you said, anybody dealing with trauma and everything else. So that's really good work, and thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, thank you. Like one of my spiritual heroes. Uh, he's always been super supportive of me as an artist and all the stuff I do. When I hinted what I was doing a little bit, especially with people who were just maybe weren't naturally writers and were coming to this stuff and the little workshops I do, um he's like that's good.
Yeah.
And he's right. Like that's where I get, to me, the strength to do the other stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I get way more out of it than I'm sure anybody else does.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Especially military members that have invested themselves for many, many, many years in mission first, and having them be able to break out of that kind of solitary mindset and then open up. It's very meaningful. So I'll say it for them if they haven't already said it to you, which I'm sure they have. Hey,
Yeah. Well, I am always around I love doing what I do, and I love bringing it to different communities. So if people are listening, it's easy to get a hold of me, and I can do it on Zoom.
there you go. Hey, so Dan and I always ask a legacy question. That's what this one is. So if a 22-year-old actor or writer comes to you in LA today, completely overwhelmed by the current state of the industry, where's yeah,
They'd be smart. They'd be awake. They'd be aware. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
that's
Go ahead.
Any Tuesday, you said. Hey, what's the baseline truth you tell them to keep them grounded?
I think it's kind of what I'm hearing throughout this whole conversation is is what we're talking about, man. It's the work. It's the no, it will never get better than what it is right now.
Right.
You know, that you're never, it's never going to be the perfect whatever. Make, if you tell, there's a price to pay if you don't tell the story that's in your throat. And that is a real thing, you know, like that thing that's in your heart. And like, I think Steve Pressfield, who's a tremendous writer on creative recovery and writing about like artists and people who are trying to do whatever, that yeah, there's a price to pay when you don't do it. And like, don't wait for permission, obviously, that these are insanely difficult times. No one's gonna call you with the opportunity that because in a way you kind of got to make it. And we have all the tools at our disposal to do it. And that's again why we made Failed State. You know, I wanted to demonstrate, and I'm not alone. There's a lot of people doing this stuff, that like we don't need anything other than what we have, our friends that we are rooted, the people you came up with, and in a weird way, the dream that like what we do matters. And I think that is the thing that'll that you can hang on to when the phone's not ringing,
Yeah.
you know, because it's going to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Fair.
Oh, and yeah. Oh, when I had a friend who said, you know, oh, but I'm a waiter, I'm a this. I'm like, no, that's just what you do to survive, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the gap filler.
Yep. So, Matt, we want to thank you for your perspective and awesome stories. And speaking of egos, it's that time. Phil's time, Phil's time. Phil, you get one serious question not related to this episode theme. Go.
Yeah, so Matt, we talked a lot, so I wanted to keep this one a little bit more light and fun, but it is an opinion-based question. It's not no right, wrong answers on this one. But what is something that is widely accepted as a fact today that people will laugh at in 50 years?
Wow. That, oh, I'll just go with it.
Do it.
That AI um and data centers and climate change and like how awesome it is to make little videos that we really don't need, um really don't make a difference, because the planet's dying. The planet is dying. The planet is dying. And we've been talking about community. And I don't get me wrong, I've used AI. I would say that my new play is about the dialogue and the conversation of it. So, but
Yeah.
like I think, and I'm not against it entirely, but I think that we need, I think the fact that that it will save us uh is wrong. I think the fact that it will utterly destroy us is wrong.
Yeah.
And I think what we really need is uh is to just like actually care and be good stewards of our of maybe looking at what it does to our world.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I appreciate technology through and through, and I know
Mhm.
great things have come from it, you know, especially if you think about robotics. I'm a graduate of Carnegie Mellon, and
Exactly, man. I'm not a Luddite. Yeah, I'm all
yeah,
for it.
one of the cool things is they made a snake robot, and while the initial intent was to look through rubble and wreckage when, say, a hurricane or an earthquake hits, they miniaturized it to the point that they were able to use it for heart surgery. So, you know, technology has its merits, obviously, and
Oh,
I don't.
100%.
You're not saying it doesn't, but I agree
Oh,
with you.
I go to JPL every once in a
Oh
while and
yeah,
get a tour. I've been on I geek out on science and NASA.
oh yeah,
I geek out on physics and quantum physics
oh yeah.
and all of this stuff. Everything we're talking about.
And we're gonna
And
have to have a different conversation about that.
and maybe okay, let's say this. The fact that like when I type a thing in that like it might not entirely be true. Maybe we should just actually learn to check our facts.
Yep.
Fair.
So what I'm kind of hearing, I mean, so this is all great, but what we gotta quit doing is relying heavily on it, and in a way, more for me, but going back to our roots, community.
That's what I think. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
think.
I mean, here's honestly, it's funny because a lot of the people that I worked with the whole time my naval career, they go, "Wow, you're one of the few people who actually said what you were going to do and actually follow through." And I was like, look, I want to, I still use technology. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're doing it now, but I was like, I want to live far away. I want to be in the country. I don't want to have deal things. I want to, disconnect, and again, I rely on it still, but I don't want to define me or define, the future for, what I plan on doing in the future with myself or my family as well, too.
It's
So,
both, man.
yeah.
It's how about this? Leaning into that both and supposition, right?
Yep.
It's like it's not an either or, it's
Yeah.
like and like we can't say it's not coming, but at the same time, like, oh man, oh, I mean, because that's also connected to that. Jesus, you said one thing. I was like, where's a great fact? That billionaire should exist. Okay. Like, can we just stop the billionaire thing?
Yeah.
The economics of all of the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Doesn't are these decisions being made to make a couple of people super rich? Yeah. So, oh God, maybe that needs to go.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the future now.
No, I got you. That's funny because Phil, on our drive yesterday, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about, this across the board, and even, taxes, because you have to pay your taxes, but it's like, man, can we just figure out a common ground and just stick with it versus,
Yeah, something simple.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing. Simple is good.
Yeah.
Simple is good.
Yeah.
And what is that? KISS, KISS?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Matt, on that note, it's time to close shop, and I want to be very respectful of your time. I appreciate every minute you gave us. It was a great discussion, and I really enjoyed getting to meet you and know you a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. This has been great.
It's
been, you guys are so good at making space and having talks, and you don't get an opportunity to talk like this ever. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah, hey, so keep in touch, man. And if you do get some time to squeeze in a little trip out to Kentucky, we'd love to have you out here on let's call it the ranch. I think we're going to call it the ranch.
Yeah, we're not
the
calling
compound.
it
We don't call it the compound.
No,
These guys want to take me shooting, I think.
we want to keep it. No, we'll come up with something better than.
No, but I mean, yes, shooting's a bonus, but let's sit around the campfire and do a live episode together, and we can go way off script with maybe a bottle of whiskey in hand.
Take the hippie pinko kami guy shooting. Yeah, it's great.
Whatever.
From the left coast.
Practice. I didn't say.
No, actually, yeah. No,
we don't judge.
No, I know. I grew up around that stuff, so I get it. Yeah, because she sounds fun. Actually, sounds fun.
Yeah.
That let's make that happen. I like that idea.
Awesome.
But hey, thanks for doing this, Matt. Appreciate it greatly. So.
All right, appreciate y'all making space and let's happy birthday, America.
Yep.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, America. So.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, Matt. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, you got
Hey, Dan, we're kicking off the first of our video retros. This is going to be fun, isn't it?
Oh, it's cool.
You got to look me in the eyes when you're talking to me.
You know what? Now I feel like the Hodges twins. You're missing your frontal lobe.
Hey, it's a good episode. We are trying to play around a little bit with getting video up and running, so this is our first opportunity to try it out. You see in the background, we got our actually the sign that Melinda burned on a large piece of wood with her laser engraver. Pretty awesome looking.
It's not that big though.
Yeah, that's true. It's not quite that big. That's all.
We'll figure all this out. We're still working through the video. And the other thing you might notice is if you watch, we're in different clothes.
Magic. But no, I mean, maybe getting to the episode, we had Matt Doherty on. Obviously, a little bit background as a child actor with the Mighty Ducks and several other films. Probably one of my favorites now after rewatching it many, many years later after the first time was So I Married an Axe Murderer. Hilarious not to know him before that. And then knowing him and going back and rewatching it, that was hilarious. So What do you think?
I think no, I thought it was good having Matt. You know what? I'm sorry with the video. I kind of want to look like my picture, Phil.
Yeah.
Your shirt. Those are just regular glasses, Phil. The extra prescription, they're going to mess you up. No, I won't do that to Phil. You go, I'm probably get a pair. Anyways, back to what we're talking about. So, no, here was the cool thing. Matt was a character.
Yeah.
I mean, so from just the first meeting with him, it wasn't like no pompous circumstance or anything like that. It was a straight up communication, down to earth, very proudful, very passionate about what he's doing, dedicated to his craft. Definitely, looking at how to push the envelope, do things better, and unite everyone at the same time. And what I really liked is, like so many of our other past guests, and I'm gonna use Danielle, even though it's different. Takes a village. He's looking out for his other actors and everyone else in the business and trying to bring them along. The guys who are they're the cusp, just trying to maintain to keep on going.
Yep.
I mean, again, part of this, the original focus on this, and still is the focus, is the movie Failed State, which they did as a project, and it's making kind of a political, fun stab at Hollywood and the whole process and everything else. And again, the cool thing is they did all this on a budget of like 15,000, just using I like how Matt did. We use this, so it so you look at it. Is it what you expect of a movie? No, but that we're accustomed to today. But again, it's the art piece of it and what they're bringing in, what can be done, what can be accomplished, and what anybody can do it nowadays. What we're doing.
Yeah.
Essentially the same thing. I mean, with this, we're playing around with this using Zoom, video camera. We're fading in and out. I mean,
So I'm gonna hit on something because you said, "Is it what you expected?" And I think that's the whole point. Is that he's trying to break the expectation norm that exists on viewers that come in and watch it. What are the expectations of this grandeur of a car chase and these special effects and this great cinematography? And you could do it on a much lower budget and actually provide some really good quality outcomes. And that was my take from the movie, was that it was entertaining. It had some sarcasm, and it was done on a budget such that it didn't break the bank. And it allows, and I think this is kind of one of those positions he's trying to take. It allows people that would normally not make the cut for the threshold for delivering a Hollywood film at that level of grandeur of the avatars and things like that, able to participate and become the artists that exist around the tradecraft. Honestly, is that now we can actually see films that are made by people that have passion but yet don't have the money. So that's I think that was one of my takeaways from Failed State. Was it is an underlying message that you won't see unless you know the premise behind why Matt took this one on and why those actors jumped into the script writing and actually acting in the film. And it was really funny too, by the way.
So I mean, fully concur on that, and I like the aspect of like you said, he had an idea, and they brought this together. But the idea was something he learned in the middle of a meeting, and truth of hey, we got this pitch. Well, we kind of already bring that aspect or do this idea at different times on that. And what I mean by that is, where he said, hey, we already communicate with the government and everything else. So, it wasn't making a stab at the government. He was just bringing in the point of, communications everywhere. No one really knows what's going on. Who's controlling what? How are you doing things? And to his point, to Phil's point, if you watch it a couple times, you tend to bring out more of it. Like I told Phil the first time we discussed, I was like, it reminded me of Clerks in a way. The first time at Clerks, I knew I liked Clerks, but I sat there afterwards going, okay, I got to rewatch this.
Yeah.
And as I did, and now I'm like so in tune with Clerks that, I think that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. And in a way, the filming's kind of the same way. It's not that perfect filming at all. And I almost hate to say it now that I'm thinking about it, it is kind of like that film for Clerks, and I know they use real cameras, everything else. Again, Matt and them use, iPhones.
Yeah, and that's time mattered because I don't think we had the technology of iPhones at the level that we do now. Shit, maybe we only had Blackberries. I'm trying to remember when Quarks came out, but it was a way back.
Well, Blackberries didn't do that.
Yeah, no
So
cameras.
Blackberries were just dead at that point in time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Don't quote me on my timing there. I might be way off. But no, and underlying all that story is Matt as a person, and that's I know we wanted to talk about fail state, and we did. But part of it is his journey as a introduction into acting as a child, and then growing away from it with his going to university, and then subsequently trying to reintegrate himself into the industry, and possibly the rejection that he had around that. But the tenacity that was built around it, and I know we used all these words, but I want to reuse them because they're very meaningful. The grit and tenacity that he had to gain or put on himself to stay in the industry and not just give up. And I think maybe even starting at the very beginning, talking about his family, I think that's a key driver for how he really made himself a mature being, if you will, in the industry, to the point where he did have that grit and tenacity to keep pushing, to becoming an excellent playwright, to take it on in various different pieces of the industry. It wasn't just about movies anymore. It was about being a mentor to others, and you alluded to that. It's about being a playwright, and drafting very complex narratives that exist for plays. It was about being a Uber driver, and I'm saying Uber driver, but being a rideshare person, and taking away that message and letting all those things shape him. It was just a great story to hear from his perspective. And I think I was super happy to have Matt, because he was a person that was a child actor, went away from it, and then came back successfully. And it wasn't about, drugs and all this shit that tears people away from the industry. It was about just realizing that he's a person, that he needs to take care of that inner person first, and then come back and try to make his path in the industry of entertainment.
So I think, so it's interesting because it's, again, like a lot of our stories. First of all, you and I really didn't know him.
Yeah.
Didn't know him at all. Once we got his name, put him into a couple movies, tracked him, but still didn't have, okay, this is the actor. I mean, Matt, no offense.
I don't get starstruck, Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it depends. But what I'm getting at here is, here's again, rise and fall, like you said. Didn't let anything keep him down. I mean, we didn't get into some areas that he alluded to. He's had some trauma and everything else.
Yep.
It's a totally separate issue, but he started from the bottom, worked his way back up. Again, is he as successful as Tom Cruise or something? No, but in his own way, he is. And he's like he alluded to, he likes being the guy behind the scenes, which personally, I kind of like my role more of a deputy, because I like being the guy behind the scenes. Typically, you're the one making things happen, everything else. But really, what I see this as a story of his life, and facing adversity head on, and taking it on each step, and figuring out how to work through it, not let it push him back, not let it stop him from what he's doing. I mean, like I said, he mentioned he's been an Uber driver, doing construction. I mean, I'm sure there's other odd jobs he had alluded to. So Phil's pointed up, because I guess we're still trying to figure out the camera why it moves so much.
Well, you keep looking down too. I want to see your beautiful eyes, sir.
How do I know you're gay without saying you're gay?
Whatever.
But anyways, he's done all that, and again, now he's in a very comfortable place where what I really like is he's into music, and we talked about that for a minute. The music's not a place of his acting; it's part of him and what he enjoys. But what he really likes is kind of guy is he likes the teaching aspect too, not just the writing behind the scenes, but he kind of likes the teaching aspect. He says he's doing one-on-one, doing with groups, helping people out. Trauma, helping not just veterans but other people out, how to get in touch with their inner, I'm not gonna say actor, maybe their inner arts, side of the house, and their creative side of the house, and tap into, what do you say, critical thinking, things like that. Things that, ironically, you and I applied throughout our naval career. And here's the ironic part. Phil and I, military, we brought up a couple times in the video discussion with Matt, or excuse me, the podcast with Matt. There's so much parallels, and I guess what I'm getting at is it really doesn't matter your background to do things, be successful, and be able to highlight and come out the other end. There's so much parallels, and on how you approach it.
Yep. Yeah, and I was thinking along the same lines as the narratives across multiple. We're 22 episodes deep now. This is the first.
Don't say that.
Season. This is the first of season 2. 22 episodes deep. Stop it. No, but the kind of the underlying narrative of almost everyone is impact, and what those people's voices and or stories bring to the table. And I think you kind of hit on it with Matt, is that for him to provide that impact, it is a little bit of outreach to veterans. It's outreach to folks in the industry that need to unleash their creative voice, that don't have a mechanism to do that, or they feel stymied by the industry, because it is, let's be real, it's a behemoth industry that can squash you easily, because the answer no hurts. But what he's providing is a mechanism by which people can feel free, open, to not be bounded by the guardrails, we'll say it that way, of the industry, and just let loose. And honestly, I would say maybe that provides more impact than what Hollywood can do with tying you to a big name film. It allows you to discover who you are, where your creativity lies, and how to express that to people so you can get your message out there, like Failed State.
Yeah, no, and again, what I also liked was he talked about his family, and you mentioned his family.
Yep.
Brothers. What the other message I kind of liked was he has half brothers. He goes, but that word doesn't exist in his. Yep. These are his brothers, and he highlight. He thinks they're funnier than he is. He just happens to have this. This career, this is what he's doing with it and everything else. But, that he took a lot from his family, his mother. He was a latchkey kid. He said he went and did Mighty Ducks, and then, the first time, then turn around, goes back to high school, having, his dad's like, you're going to work at a pizzeria,
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I'm getting is you have a real person here who has balanced all this out. Like I said, went to college, got his degree, didn't bet on the whole Hollywood thing, and still making it, still doing things, and still a driving force behind what he believes. And again, Failed State being part of that, as well as, we don't know all the other things he's working on, but he's mentioned there's other things that they're pushing through. And again, what we also don't know is, he is supportive of numerous, initiatives too, where he's in the background and not going to get the recognition, but he's doing what he needs to do to support that. And that's another thing that I got to learn to do, turn on my phone with the text that's going off. I love podcast stuff. We can just do stuff live. Did you hear that?
What?
But where was I at? Podcast. Oh, so he is, what I take out of it that Matt probably didn't really put up there is, very humbled. Just does his thing, not looking for the credit, and just wants everyone to be part of the ride and enjoy that ride.
Yeah, agree. Hey, I think on that, we pretty much summed up the episode. Anything else we want to chat?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing, because it was a great weekend for me, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
It's awful.
Whoa, come on. Where's the card? Go, Charles, go.
Charles Leclerc, F1 winner for this week's race. Yeah, whatever.
Yes, and I don't care what anyone says. He deserved it.
Hey, no, so we will drop, I think I've already captured the link to Matt's Failed State video. I will maybe retroactively come back and post some audio to reiterate the link that he provided in the episode. But we'll also have it probably in our Facebook post as well as Instagram posts. So if you're looking for a quick view, I mean, it's about an hour and a half movie, I think.
Yeah.
About an hour and a half of entertaining stuff to have in the background, and then quotable material for you to.
I will say quotable material, because but it's tough because there's some parallels into real world events.
Yeah.
For me in a past life where I'm like going, okay, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, different countries, but kind of funny.
Yeah. Syrian.
Plus, they're making up names, And he commented on that. He goes, "Yeah, we just went with it." So,
All right, so let's close it up. Good talk, good chat, good guest. Looking forward to more. Hopefully, this video will stimulate a little bit more viewership and followership, and we'll start getting more people reaching out to us. CatalystComms26@gmail.com to join the team, the guest list. It is very dynamic, so don't think if you throw your name out there, we can do you later, we can do you early. We're open, honestly. A bunch of retired mentality here and do what we want type of mentality. So come jump on the couch with us.
remember, keep it real.
Yeah, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, before we close this out, I want to do one thing.
Yes, sir.
Let's do the Scooby-Doo thing. Woo! Sorry, video opportunity.
A look in time, a trip down the rabbit hole. True stories will be told, labels stripped away. The human factor